Hello. Good morning, everybody. There's always so many logistical things to do with the intro video.
Morning.
How are you doing?
Shall I be honest about that or not?
You can be honest, it's fine.
I may have had a few too many glasses of wine yesterday.
Em and I both met friends last night separately in accordance with all the guidelines.
Yes.
And I was messaging her being like, oh God, I'm going to be hungover tomorrow. And you were like, me too, oh gosh. But the difference between our nights is that I was in bed at 9:30 and you were in bed a little bit later than that.
A little bit later.
But you're more hardcore than me, so it's fine. You can handle it.
It's fine. Yes, I can handle it. I've done worse.
And anyway. To be honest, this completely blowing our own trumpets here, but this topic is really good. So I feel like this will be a great session, hungover or not hungover.
Yes.
Morning, everyone. Hi, Martina. Morning. How are you? Hope everything's good. I've just sent you an email with all the stuff for next week's challenge. Very exciting. So today we're talking about the importance of planning ahead.
Yeah.
Em, you're all systems go with this.
Yeah, so we've got this course planned at the end of the year where we're going to be kind of talking about planning ahead for 2021, and we have been talking about this amongst ourselves. And I think what's happening a lot at the moment is everyone is kind of living in the now and reacting to the things that are happening, so government guidelines and things like that, and that's totally understandable. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think out of necessity, really, that's what we've all had to do. But we're really kind of thinking about planning ahead, having a few different scenarios, so that you kind of don't go into 21 not really knowing what to do. Or
having to be so reactive again. Not really any time to plan ahead.
Yeah.
I think it's so unknown that we've all had to be reactive, haven't we?
Yeah, and things are going to change, but things always change, even in normal times. If you plan something, it doesn't go according to plan. I had that conversation recently about my own business. It's never, every time at the beginning of the year I think, right, this is going to be like this year, and it never happens that way. And it could be, things could be really good, sometimes things don't go so well, but it's never the way that you think it is. So it's really important just to take a little bit of time and take a step back and go, okay, this is my plan. And it's not really, it's like what we said yesterday, it's not really about the end plan, it's also about the process of going through it and really analyzing your business and thinking about, what have I been doing, what haven't I been doing, and what do I enjoy, what works well, what doesn't work well, how do I see the future in all these different scenarios. And then you come to realize things about your business that you kind of know, but because you keep going, or because you keep being so reactive, that it's not
that you don't just don't get to look at it that much. I think
exactly.
I had this realization, being honest, probably too honest to a fault I am, but anyway, where I was putting in some plans for 2021 for Selling Savvy, and I listed kind of all the sections that I want to have targets on, and obviously that includes revenue and conversion and figures and stuff like that. And one of the targets, I was like, actually, I want to hit that, but I don't know what I'm doing at the moment. So that I wrote it like a business plan for 2021, but then I realized why people say going through the process is actually the planning rather than having an end product. Like, this is the document, this is my plan. Because it made me realize a lot of things that I wanted to do, but I wasn't currently measuring.
Yeah, I've done it recently as well, and actually it made me realize that things aren't as bad as I thought. For example, you think, oh no, I've had to postpone all of these bookings, and then when you look at it, it's okay, but they are postponed and they are going to happen, and when they happen, it will be, things will be fine, and that is probably going to be 2022, but that, that's okay, because that's the situation we're in. And another thing that we mustn't forget, and I'm sorry for bringing it up, is Brexit. And for some people it's not going to affect their business at all, and for some people it will. And in terms of recruitment and demand, and the pound might drop and things like that. So there's different, it's just, we can't just ignore it, although I'd really like to.
Yeah.
I think we have to kind of have a look at it and say, okay, what is that going to affect my business and how, or our venue or whatever, and have a look at that.
And I think everything's all been about COVID, quite rightly, for so many months now. It's easy to forget the other factors that are also going to influence business, really. So I'm going to share my screen and go through a bit of a structure of how to plan ahead, and then we're going to go through each of the points quickly and chat about them. But this is the rough kind of grid, I guess, to get you started so that you can start brainstorming. And this is taken from a section in our Getting Yourself Sales Ready for 2021 challenge in December. Little plug there. So it's worth thinking across the top here. We've got 3 different scenarios because everything's so unknown. It's really hard to plan when you don't know what the rules and guidelines are going to be. We know that from the last 6 months, but we kind of know roughly that life's going to fit into one of these 3, and obviously it's going to depend on your location probably, and it's just going to depend on Boris as usual. So we've got a lockdown scenario. What's going to happen to your business, or what do you want your business to look like if we do have to go into another lockdown? What is your business going to look like? Are you going to be able to pivot? All of those things if we continue with this tiered situation that we're in at the moment. And then lastly, vaccine scenario. When that comes, how are you going to tackle it? And we're going to go through a few points that we really need to be thinking about if we do get a vaccine, and business levels shoot sky high, which obviously would be fantastic, but we need to be prepared for that. And then along the side, we've split up into, this is a massive snippet of it, but oh, hi Rachel and Elaine, nice to see you. On the left, we've got different sections for you to plan ahead. Obviously, we need to take into account revenue in all of these scenarios. What do you want that to look like? Proactivity, collaborations. So are there going to be any different collaborations dependent on these scenarios? And who do you want to be collaborating with? Customers, how's your market going to change? We're going to go through these in more detail in a minute. Team, what do these scenarios, how does it are going to affect the requirements of your team, or if you need a team, or if you need more of a team? And what's your personal development look like as well? Are you going to be concentrating on you in that time, or are you not going to have time in certain situations, but then you need to make time in other scenarios? So we're going to go through this morning really quickly because there's lots to go through, as you can imagine. Each of these on the left here.
Yeah, and I think as well, it doesn't have to be these 3 scenarios, or it doesn't have to be these headings. These are just ideas, but it really depends on on your venue or on your business, or what you're doing. So you could say, I mean, you may not be ready to have a vaccine scenario, but it could be another situation. So you could kind of choose what you want it to look like, if that makes sense. But yeah. I like these 3. These make sense to me.
Yeah, they make sense to me as well.
Yeah.
Becky's saying, this is what I tell my hospitality clients too. What can they do now and in different tiers, and then shift their marketing accordingly rather than having knee-jerk reactions? Yeah. There's not been much time to do this, I feel like, over COVID, whereas now we're towards the end of the year. We should be spending time on what should be prioritizing what definitely. Next year's going to look like. So should we start with revenue?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the obvious of what revenue do you want to make, or is realistic putting together. I mean,
what you revenue
want to make could be amazing, but what's going to be realistic in those 3 scenarios? And what do you think your conversion might be? So what inbound leads would you like to be seeing? And then through Proactivity, which we'll go through, how are you going to bring them in, how are you going to find them, and then what your conversion is going to be from those inbound leads. Also, what your profit margins are. And I know that this is tightening the purse strings has been a bit of a knee-jerk reaction as well, for obvious reasons. But
don't forget to pay your accountant. That's my advice.
Yeah.
I finally have some income this week, and now I have to pay my accountant because I forgot to pay it.
Oh no. It's very important for you right now, for everybody.
I should have had that in my plan anyway.
You should have had that in your plan, yeah. So, and also looking at what different revenue streams are going to be. So we've all pivoted, that word. So if there's another lockdown or if there's a vaccine, what's your business going to look like? What are you going to be offering? Perhaps, I mean, like us, we pivoted really early on and really quickly into virtual space. And actually, if there's a vaccine, we'll probably continue to do a lot of virtual stuff. So it doesn't mean that there's a vaccine and your business goes back to normal again. Like, there are lots of things that we've all learnt how to do, like Zoom.
And I think we've said that on some of the other headings as well, but it's really, we've learned so much through this process. I think we thought, it could be about your work-life balance. It could be about what you enjoy doing. It could be about, if you're working in a venue, it could be about which events or which clients you like to speak to, or the fact that you've been really creative with a hybrid or virtual events or anything like that. You can say, okay, well, I would like to continue that regardless, because some of the hotels, you can see that they're working really closely together as a team as well, trying to be creative. And I saw a hotel the other day that had a teepee in their on their grounds, and they've put a fire inside it, and well, not like it's going to go up in fire, but bombs and things like that, and it looked really nice. And I just thought, would they have done that if it wasn't for COVID? And actually that is such a nice thing to do. So yeah, just all the things that we're doing that are brilliant at the moment, they can just continue and just take
it. And it's worth like listing them down, what you've learned and how you've changed and what things you do want to continue on, because I think even just like typing up a list of everything that's changed and everything you've achieved in the last 6 months, people have achieved a hell of a lot because they've suddenly had time.
And agencies that have gone into virtual, is that what you want to do, or do you want to go back to in person? I mean, we all want to go back to in person, but do you keep part of that virtual as well? And what's that going to look like? Just in terms of revenue income, but also in terms of your team offering. And things like that. Who's going to take that on? I'm going ahead a little bit here, but there's so many things that are just worth thinking about.
And lastly, specifically on the revenue point, is to look at reimagining your supply chains and the suppliers that you use. I think there's all been a bit of an awakening, well, not an awakening, probably the wrong word, but a bit of a like people are really suddenly even more passionate about supporting local businesses. Oh, that's me telling me I've got a team meeting in 15 minutes, guys. Sorry, it's my computer flashing at me. Suddenly everybody's really passionate to support local businesses, and I think people are more passionate to buy from businesses who they know support local. So do it on behalf of protecting your profit, but also do it on behalf of protecting your area and the country. Proactivity. So we've done a lot of this recently on prospecting and proactivity and what industries are booking at the moment, and what industries have you worked with before and who's relevant now. Are there any specific industries or businesses that you want to tap into next year, and a bit of a plan of how you're going to do that, and when is it going to be relevant, and when is it going to be dependent on the guidelines as well. All things like what exhibitions you're going to be attending. I know that we were talking about Confex has been rescheduled for May, hasn't it? So is it Confex? Yeah, it was Confex.
IMEX is planning to have an in-person event in Frankfurt next year.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Confex in London, they're doing it in person in May.
Oh, yeah.
which is amazing. But it's worth looking at all of these exhibitions and what we chatted about this yesterday, what the different scenarios are. So if we're in a tiered situation, what's your budget going to be for Proactivity? If we're in a and therefore what exhibitions and networking, all of that stuff you're going to be able to go to. If there's a vaccine, will that budget be bigger? Will you keep it the same? So what are your expense budgets, dependent on the 3 scenarios?
Yeah, definitely. And that makes it so easy if you just have that written down. So, okay, well, if we're in this scenario, we're not going to go. If we're in this scenario, we're going to do this. If we're in this scenario, we're going to do this. And then when that scenario comes, you can always make changes, but you can just go, okay, actually, yeah, we decided already this is the plan. So then it just makes it so much easier to go through the year. This in 2020, it all came as a surprise. We were like, woohoo, this is going to be a great year. And then it really wasn't. But we know the situation we're in now, so we can really plan and prepare ourselves for the come.
Yeah. And things like site visits we've talked about, and farm trips, and show rounds and appointments. What do they look like in these 3 different scenarios? And what targets are you going to give yourself per week to get them in, or are they going to be virtual? Just looking at all the examples that you can really, and giving yourself some targets to hit. We were saying, I mean, Fem, you likened it, which is quite right, to a wish, want, walk structure. You're quoting, and it is
can't
like
really
that,
call it that,
it?
because you don't want to walk away from
that's true. Lockdown, I'm giving up. But it's the same because it's scenarios, I guess. So collaborations as well. Obviously we're big fans of collaborations and working with other businesses that have the same clients as you, that don't really do the same thing as you. So it's worth putting together a list of current collaborations. Do you want to continue working with them, and be honest with yourself about what both parties are getting out of the relationship, and also any future collaborations? And I've even written on here, reach high, because you should be working with businesses, or in an ideal world, you want to work with businesses who are bigger than you and have more reach. That's the dream for anybody. So when you're planning this and putting this in place, reach high for those collaborations, and give yourself some what's the word, pressure to get to them. So is everybody all right? Rachel and Becky are chatting together.
You're okay. You're okay. Oh, poor Becky, she's in tier 3 now, so
Was it from today or from Monday? I can't remember.
I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah, it's really tough.
Yeah, not good.
Lots more virtual stuff, Becky.
Yes, we'll be with you all the time.
Yeah.
So should I do customers?
Yes.
So really have a think about who your customers are. I think we've had this topic separately on a number of occasions, really, but what is the market demanding, and to avoid this kind of shotgun approach to marketing and be more targeted. So you can have your 3 scenarios in kind of on your plan, and then think, okay, well, if this is going to happen, then this is going to be my target market, and if this is going to happen, then it will be these people, and you can kind of prepare yourself for all those 3 scenarios, and then base your marketing on that, and not just go, at the moment everyone's like, oh, Christmas is cancelled, so we'll do this. It's all very reactionary. So I think it's quite straightforward, isn't it? It's just knowing who your market is.
And avoiding that kind of just blanket marketing, and being more targeted and niche, isn't it? And that isn't just for marketing as well, that goes for sales as well. What sort of people do you want to be talking to in different scenarios? Hi Jamie. Late as always. If anybody doesn't know, because there's been a couple of people who've said recently they didn't realise, all of these Savvy Says go onto our YouTube channel, the Selling Savvy YouTube channel, and also onto our Instagram, IGTV. So you can watch them and rewatch them as much as you like. Also on our YouTube channel, there's loads more content and interviews with industry people on there, and yeah, there's loads of great stuff. So have a look. Now we're on to team. So we sort of touched on this earlier, but depending on the different scenarios is obviously going to depend on business, is obviously going to affect business levels and therefore affect what team you need. There's been some obviously lots of heartbreaking redundancies recently. However, if there is a vaccine, business will boom again. It's been predicted that everybody will suddenly be rushing out and having loads of events and parties, which will be amazing. But it means that you may need to have a backup plan with staffing.
And it's not just when there's a vaccine. I think as soon as the news comes in about a vaccine, people are going to start, business levels.
Yeah, that's true.
People will feel confident. But it's also about, I think really about how your staff are feeling, and they've been through a lot. And then if it, all of the different scenarios require a lot of attention. So if there's another lockdown for venues, obviously that's going to be really bad because they may have to close, or you're looking at I don't know whether they're thinking about extending the furlough, but really looking at what can you do to keep your staff on. If you're on the other side, when things come back, how are you going to manage them? That you don't just want to bombard them suddenly and use your sickest skeleton staff with and overload them. So it's really about looking after the staff that you have, really, but also managing the business levels. So if you suddenly have lots of business, then you need more people, and where are they going to come from? So it's worth looking at, and I think this is probably one of the least pleasant kind of topics, but really important, just to make sure that you put your team first.
Yeah, definitely put your team first is a really good one. Also, how are they performing and what do they need extra support with? And I'm laughing because obviously we're a training company. Hello. But is there going to be a need for them to improve in certain areas? What are those areas with your current team members, perhaps? And if there is a situation where you have to streamline your team, are you going to be left with the junior team? Because has happened a lot recently, and we've been talking to clients about how they a lot of the senior people are no longer there, unfortunately, and therefore they've got a junior team and a lot is expected of them. So what skills are they going to need to learn and pick up on, and how are you going to do that? Do you have a budget to do it? Are you going to do it yourself? What resources have you got to be able to do that?
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that in a lot of venues that some of the senior people have left, and the people who are not used to managing large accounts and things like that are going to, they're going to have to learn how to do that, and I think it's going to be tricky. So yeah, there's definitely going to be a training need.
Yeah. And then lastly, personal development, which I think is a lovely one to kind of finish on, and something that we're all really passionate about, and kind of being honest with yourself about where you want to be. And I think this whole structure is relevant for businesses, obviously, and managers and things, but it's also relevant for you in your role if you're like a BDM or or even an event manager. It's worth putting in place all of these kind of expectations and desires and plans for 2021, especially what your plans are personally. So have a little inward look at yourself about what your strengths are, what perhaps you want to upskill on, what have you learned, like we said earlier about writing a list of what you've learned over lockdown and over COVID. And that doesn't have to be actual skills like I went to a prospecting course, doesn't have to be necessarily like that. It can be that I've actually learned I really enjoy working from home. I've learned that I love working virtually. I get a lot more interaction about it from clients doing things virtually, doing training sessions virtually, than you do when you're stood in front of a projector and screen in a hotel in front of 50 people staring at you. It can be all those kind of things, like what have you learned about yourself as well, and then what do you want to learn in 2021? about yourself, and what do you want to learn to be more successful throughout the year as well. And then lastly, what I really like this one, what do you want your life to look like?
We've all had this realization. I think, you know, some people have been spending more time with their kids, and some people have been, obviously, when working from home. I haven't been traveling, so it's, you know, when I go back, do I want to be the person who runs around and who's always late on the school run, and who's away, you know, 5 times a year, and has their kids with various different people who are babysitting, things like that? Is that what you want from next year?
Yeah.
And if it's not, then prepare yourself for what it's going to be like when when things are busy, or just kind of have a little think about what you want your life to look like.
Yeah, I don't think we ever really do, like the royal everybody ever really sits down and does that. You sort of hop from job to job, and maybe like often chasing salaries and things, and you never sit down and like, actually, what do I want to get out of life? Like, I obviously love lockdown personally, was really good for us, and we really enjoyed spending so much time together, but I also wanted to work. Like, I didn't furlough myself because I just need that in my life, but and it's just worth getting that balance of what you want to be doing.
But I've never had anyone tell me, once they're finished working, saying, "Oh, what do you wish you'd done more in your life?" And they never say, "Oh, I wish I worked more."
That's true.
No, it's all about, I wish I achieved things personally. I wish I spent more time with the people that I care about, things like that. So I'm not saying that you want to stop working, and
but I think it's interesting when you say people don't say, "I wish I'd worked more," but they might say, "I wish I'd or money, I wish I'd achieved these awards, I'd wish I'd worked with these certain people in the industry," or something. So it just depends on where your goals are, I guess. So thank you, Jamie. Learnt so much from you three ladies over the past months. Thank you. Thanks, Jamie, we love you too. So true. I could have just done nothing for 3 months, but did more. Why? Haha, no. Did more than we've ever done before. Cool. So we are running a challenge on this in December, 7th to 11th of December, called Getting Yourself Sales Ready for 2021. Here's a few little bits of what we'll be covering. It's going to be obviously along the lines of what we discussed today, but it's going to be a lot more task orientated, so actually getting you ready for it. And then by the end of the week, you'll have a whole bunch of a plan of where you want to be and how you're going to get there.
And also, it's a month away, so a lot can change in that time, and maybe we'll be planning for 21 with a bit more knowledge of what's going to happen. That would be nice, wouldn't it? If Boris,
that would be nice. If there's an update with like 2021, so we're gonna have loads of money. It's gonna be so busy. Jamie, I wish I could be more organised. Well, this will definitely organise you. We can whip you into shape, Jamie. So we're going to be going through a bit of diary management, maximising profit, forecasting and unknown times, which we obviously touched on a lot today. Analysing lead times, where are the gaps, and planning your sales efforts throughout the year as well. So I think Fem's put the link in the comments, and that's it. Thank you, everybody. Look at that, spot on time. I'm impressed.
That's very...
When we were writing this, we were like, this is going to take hours. We're not going to be able to fit it in. But we were speedy. Nice to see everybody. Happy Friday.
Happy weekend.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.